chefs are going to be doing some really amazing stuff, but we thought we were going to show you things that you normally don't see on a day-to-day basis. And obviously, being the Oyster Box Hotel, we are showing you recipes with oysters. So we've got quite a few different recipes that we're going to be creating. So you're going to have to just keep up with me because I'm going to be multitasking. I know for men, that's a serious problem, so sometimes my staff are just going to remind me if I'm doing something wrong. But we are going to create a few dishes for you. Some of them are dishes that, actually all of them are dishes that we have created for very famous people. So I thought, I'm going to show you stuff that the celebrities that stay at the hotel, what do they eat and what do they request when they're with us. So the first one, I think most of you would know, in the first year of us reopening, we did Princess Charlene and Prince Albert's wedding reception at the Oyster Box Hotel. And one of the dishes the dish that I'm first going to do for you now is called Oysters Charlene. And what she requested was, for the wedding, we create an oyster dish that was specifically for her. It was available at the wedding, and it was actually so popular that it's now permanently on our menu. So people don't know this, but Princess Charlene actually is more vegetarian than she does eat meat, but she prefers vegetarian food. And her most popular vegetarian food is actually curries. So we took a few Indian ingredients and we created a baked oyster dish called Oysters Charlene. So that's what I'm going to actually show you now. While I'm doing that, we're also going to be creating a dish that it's called Oysters Diane. And Oysters Diane is made after, there's a dish called Steak Diane. And we had, what was his name again? Who we created this dish for? Yeah. The guy from the UK. You guys remember the movie Spud? So John Cleese was in Durban shooting that movie, and he came and he wanted something created. All these famous people, when they come to the hotel, they're happy to eat the menu the first night, but then after that, they always ask for something to be created for them. So we took a Steak Diane recipe, added oysters to it to add our little signature to it. And again, it has become so popular that actually in the next 2 weeks, it is one of the new features on our menu. So what we're going to do is, I always find it difficult with these demos that I got to be talking all the time and then entertaining you. So it's like really hard, but I promise, I'm easy with words. So what we're going to do is the first dish. Okay, so those are the two dishes that I'm preparing. On this side here, one of our signature dishes at the hotel is called Drunken oysters. The reason why we call it Drunken oysters is we actually get the oysters drunk. Okay, so oysters are normally obviously in the sea. We put them into vodka, and they think that they're in the sea, and they take a big and then they get drunk. So we're going to serve you. So luckily enough, actually with this demo here, you guys are actually going to get to taste our dishes. So on that side, my friends are going to be making the oysters, the Drunken oysters, and they're going to be assembling some of the dishes that I'm preparing, individual portions. They're going to make the bulk portions, and you'll be able to try it when they're ready or towards the end of the show, okay? So don't get too bored. You have to act like you like me while I'm here. Otherwise, you don't get to taste anything. So what we're going to do is, in the pan, I've got some butter and some olive oil. And the reason why you actually want the flavor of the butter, but if you add a little bit of olive oil or normal cooking oil, one of the benefits of it is that it increases the heat temperature of the butter so it doesn't burn. Okay, so we're going to quickly let me see if this stove works faster than that one. That one looks better. Okay, so in that, we're going to, as soon as it starts bubbling. Now, for the people who cook curries at home, please don't judge me on what I'm doing, okay? This is not a genuine curry. It's a Western version of a curry. I was going to say a white man's version of a curry, but I'll be respectful. So it's a Western version of a curry, right? So we're going to add some onions to the pan. Not a lot. And we're just going to brown that off a little bit. Now, you know, why I enjoy making this dish here when I do demos is actually, it's quite interesting because people always think that the only way you can eat oysters are raw, which is actually not true. There's 101 variations of eating oysters, and actually most of them are either cooked or warm. So these are just some variations that I'm going to show you that you can eat oysters, okay? So in there, we're now going to add, let's move all of this out of the way. So a little bit of garlic, about a tablespoon of garlic, sorry, teaspoon, half a teaspoon ginger, and we're going to saute that off. Okay. In this pan, we're going to get some olive oil going here. Now, the good thing about olive oil and butter is they say one is healthy for you, the other one you shouldn't be eating too much of, but butter actually adds flavor to almost all food. So, I mean, you know, let's not worry too much about how much of butter we're using. We're just going to quickly do that. Okay, we're going to move that off the heat. Half a teaspoon of curry powder, or maybe a little more. Okay, let's finish that off there. And then for those, like I said, in the crowd who know about curries, you guys know what's dal makhni. Anyone knows what's dal makhni? How many people have eaten dal makhni before? It's just there's more white hands than Indian hands. Come on, guys, you're letting me down here, yeah, man. Okay, so this is a quick and easy version of a dal makhni, right? So we got the ginger, the garlic, the curry powder in there. We're going to throw our lentils that's been pre-boiled. And we're going to just allow that to cook for almost a minute to a minute and a half so that the flavors permeate into each other and give it that flavor that we're looking for. Okay, while that's there, in this pan, the oil's hot, and we're going to take some baby spinach, and we're going to put that in there. Little bit of garlic. Okay, and all we're going to do is just wilt that spinach down. So we don't want it to fully cook, we just want it to turn. Wilt means basically you're cooking it so that it gets soft enough for you to eat and it's not 100% raw anymore. So that's all we want with this here. In this pan, we're going to add some cream. Watch. And then we're going to season both of these, some pepper, molten salt. Okay. That's almost done. This just needs to reduce. Okay, so you can see a white dal makhni. So it doesn't have that dark flavor like we normally would make a dal makhni with. Okay. Right, let's switch that off actually. And we are done here. Okay, so now comes the interesting part for this dish. Let me just switch this off first. Okay, here's my oysters. The good thing about the Oyster Box Hotel is we only use wild local oysters. So you won't find at the hotel any oysters from Knysna or anywhere else. We only utilize our own wild oysters, and you can see that from the shell. They really look wild. They're more like rocks than smooth oyster shells. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to take a teaspoon, and we're going to choose the better looking ones, and we're going to loosen the meat. Okay, and then put it back in there. And we're going to do a few of these. You can see the guys on that side are getting the bulk ready for you, so you get to taste them. Does everyone enjoy eating oysters? Yeah? Good. Good, good, good. So how many of you all have eaten oysters at the Oyster Box Hotel? That's also good. Okay, so we're just loosening it so that basically what we're trying to do is when we're eating it, we don't want to be able, or we want to be able to just scoop all the ingredients up together. Okay, one more I need, and then we can start. Okay, so we've got 6 of them here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually, let me just use this quickly. We're going to take the meat off the shell, and we're going to add some spinach at the bottom, put the meat back on. We're going to add some of the lentils on top. Okay. Grated Parmesan cheese, and we're going to put those in the oven now. So we're just going to do these quickly. Okay. So what basically I was telling you, when we created the dish for Princess Charlene, the reason why we utilize the ingredients that we're doing now is her favorite meal when she was there, we have a curry buffet on our ocean terrace, and she couldn't get enough of the dal makhni and the braised spinach with green chili. So we decided we were going to take her 2 favorite ingredients and create this dish for her. Okay, almost done. Okay. Now, the thing about this dish is actually what you could do is if you have guests over at home and you want to create a dish like this, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but if you're doing cooked oysters, so I'm going to stick this now into the oven, and it's going to be in there for a few minutes until the cheese melts on top, and then we're going to take it out. If you do this dish at home and you decide to make it for your guest, what you could do is you could actually prepare all the ingredients, cool it down, assemble the oysters, leave them in the fridge, and when your guests arrive, you can actually then put it into the oven, bake it, and take it out and serve it to them. You definitely, although you can put it in the fridge beforehand, but after it's cooked, you want to eat it while it's still warm. Otherwise, the cheese just gets a bit rubbery on top, and then it's not as good as it, or it doesn't taste as good as you want it to taste. So that was Oysters Charlene, which we will get to taste just now. And like I said, I'm going to try and multitask. So the next dish I'm going to do is our Oyster Diane. And Oysters Diane, has anyone ever eaten steak Diane? No? Okay, so steak Diane is a very old traditional dish. Normally when you go to restaurants, it is prepared at the table in front of you. So the maitre d' comes and he prepares the steak dish for you. And he actually even plates it onto your plate and serves it to you. So we've just put a little oyster twist to it. Sorry, that's a bigger one. To make sure that... So this as well is another... It's actually a main course. So, you know, what I'm trying to do is actually show people that oysters can be eaten in so many different ways. You know, most people, when you ask them, have you tried oysters or have you eaten oysters? Oh, no, you know, not for me. But I don't think, there's anything wrong with eating it if it's cooked. So, you know, I'm trying to get people to see that it's as versatile any other ingredient. Or hopefully I'm trying to convince myself it's as versatile as any other ingredient. Okay, so for this dish, what we need is some olive oil, some butter, and we're going to melt that down. While that is melting, you need some fillet steak, and you cut them into little medallions. Okay. Now, this dish, again, is a dish that if you're preparing for guests at home, it's best prepared a la minute. So you prepare it and serve it at the same time. Okay, so we're going to just season that with some black pepper, some Malden sea salt. Okay, tap it down so that it's on there. Okay, I need a pair of tongs. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do first is, once that is nice and hot, we're going to take the steak. Just wipe this plate for me, please. And we're going to put it, the side that we seasoned, we're going to put that down first. Okay. And we're going to allow that to seal off. You don't really want to overcook it. So depending, I mean, it all depends on how you like your steak. I like mine a bit rare. Some people like it well done. But for this dish, this part of the dish, you just basically seal it. Once it turns brown, you turn it over. Okay. And then you remove the steak. So all you've done is you've sealed the steak. You remove it out because you actually want those flavors of the steak. It's like making a stock. So you want the flavors in the pan now. Just take out meat from 6 oysters for me, please. Right, put that back in there. And in that, we're going to put some garlic. You don't want to use chopped garlic for this. What you want is just slithers of garlic because you want to be able to almost, when you're eating the steak, you want those pieces of the garlic, in your mouth. So we're going to put some of that in there. And we're just going to let that cook until it's fragrant. Now, when you read most recipe books, they say until it's fragrant. In the beginning, I never knew what they meant. And then I had a chef who explained to me that you need to stand over it. And when you smell it, then you know it's ready for the next ingredient. Although I think most of us at home, you can smell our food anyway, especially if you come to my house when we cook curry. The whole neighborhood knows I'm cooking. All my neighbors give me a call. What you having for dinner tonight? What curry is it? Okay, so we're going to remove that off there. And we're going to add a handful of spring onion, some chopped parsley. And we're not going to put that on the heat now because we don't want that to overcook, right? So we're just going to stand it on there, and then I'm going to get my oyster meat. Here's it right here. Okay. And we're going to place these in here. Again, just toss it quickly, put it back on the heat there. Okay, then for this dish, you need some really good brandy. Normally I'd have a glass, so I'd pour it in my glass first and then there, but I guess I have to behave myself here, so. Okay. Once that's nice and sizzling, you don't want the oysters to overcook, okay? Then you add a little bit of brandy. And if I can touch the flame, which I can't, there we go. And you flambe it. Okay, now you don't want that to cook down completely. So while the flames are there, you don't want to lose all the flavor. You stick in a little bit of beef stock, reduced. A little bit of cream. Okay, give that a good mix up. What are we ready with there? Anything? Yeah, mine are ready. So now leave it another minute. Well, let me finish this first. Okay, so now that that's there, remember we salted the steak. We did the salt and the pepper in the steak, so we're not going to salt the sauce, okay? That is a guarantee that that's there. Now, just before we finish that, we're going to take some mushrooms, and we're just going to throw it on top. And the reason why I'm adding the mushrooms towards the end is I don't want them to wilt down into almost nothing. So I want that crunchy, not crunch, but you know, the substance of the mushroom, not just a flat piece in there. So we're going to use some of that. Take your steak, place it on top. Okay, and that literally cooks for about a minute now. Just lower the temperature there, and for about a minute that has to cook, and then we'll be ready to serve it. So that there is an oyster Diane. That's how simple it is. Okay, we're just going to give this a quick turn over on the meat. Now, to present, you can serve your steak with whatever you want. Generally, I would say maybe, I wouldn't say chips. I mean, a nice dish like this, you've made all the effort, and then to serve it with deep fried chips, maybe not. Maybe some sauteed potatoes, couscous. It would go nice on pasta. Quinoa, it would go nice with that. Mashed potato is the best part. Very creamy, lots of butter, mashed potato, and you can't go wrong. Okay, so we take our steak, and we're going to put it on there. What? And I need a serving spoon. Okay, so the focus of the dish obviously is the oysters. So you want to get all of that oyster and the mushrooms together. And you see, the idea of putting the mushrooms in last is you can still see them, they still look, they've kept their shape, but the flavors have obviously permeated into the sauce. Okay, and we put that over the steak. And then, you know, most chefs, they do that little, like they take a spoon and they drizzle it. And I really don't waste your time with that. Just pour the sauce over. Because that's only for the TV shows. We want to keep it real here. You know? Okay? And then you can finish that off with some Parmesan cheese. Take a little bit more of the parsley, fresh parsley, sprinkle it on top. And there we go. What you have here now is steak and oyster Diane, or oyster steak Diane, whichever way you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it here, and when you guys are trying the other dishes just now, you can try that as well, right? So that's there. Then let's have a look at my oysters. Just wipe this for me, please. Right, so here's my oysters that were in the oven. And as you can see, what has happened is they've crisped up. So you can see the cheese is actually nice and crispy. And that's basically an oyster's Charlene. Right, and then I'm going to show you one more recipe. So the best way to serve these oysters is you serve the oysters nice and hot like this here, and then you have French bread, thinly sliced up, and then they scoop the meat out of that there with the spinach and stuff, place it onto French bread, and you eat it. It is divine, I promise you. And I actually think their one's going to taste better than mine, because mine was a quick hit and run, and they taste tested their stuff, you know, so you're going to get to taste their one better. So that's oysters Charlene there. Then, if I find a pan, there we go. Another quick and easy way to eat oysters. I need oyster meat, huh? About 10. You got it. Okay. Quick and easy way to eat oysters. I have a brother who lives in the States, and he's been there for about 21 years or something. So last year I saw, actually the beginning, about 2 months ago, I saw him after about 21 years. We all visited some other family of mine in Australia, and it was almost like a family get-together. So after 21 years, this American now, because he thinks he's American, people go for 6 months to America and they come back with that accent. Okay, he's gone for 21 years, but he's got the full-on accent. And coming from the oyster box, and he's like, oh, so you think you're a famous chef, And he remembers clapping me when I was a lighty kind of stuff, And we were talking about oysters. And he's like, oh, so how do you prepare oysters? And I gave him all. Actually, while I was in Australia, I prepared that dish for him, and I made 2 or 3 other dishes. And he thought, well, not he thought. He decided, like all Americans, that us South Africans don't know enough, and he's going to educate me. So he taught me on how to do flame-grilled oysters. And I got to tell you, I started off by saying, yeah, whatever, you're a pharmacist, stick to what you do. I'm the chef, let me do it. It was totally amazing. Now, the problem is I can't really do exactly how we did it there, but I'm going to explain it to you, but let you taste it and how good it really is. So what he did was, the only ingredients he used was spring onion, parsley, garlic, butter, and Parmesan cheese. Just those ingredients, right? So we're going to get those ingredients together. We don't need all this other stuff, yeah? So we just need garlic, Parmesan cheese, spring onion, parsley, the oysters, and the butter. And what he did was he took the shells like that, straight off, kept the juice in them, and he took 2 or 3 pieces of garlic, placed it on each one. He took a bit of butter, scooped it on top, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of spring onions, and then he placed them straight onto the braai. Or, well, as far as he was concerned, it was a barbecue, not a braai. Right? But he placed them on the braai, and sorry, I forgot. I'm lying. And the Parmesan cheese. Placed them on the braai, and then when he saw it bubbling, the liquid from the oyster bubbling, he took them out and he served it to us hot as it was. No salt or anything, because you actually don't need to salt it as long as you keep the liquid in the oyster, because that's salty enough already. And I got to tell you, for me, creating all these like fancy dishes that take 20, 30 minutes to prepare, that American knew a little bit, because it took 5 minutes and we were eating the most delicious oysters ever. But since I can't do that here because we need a braai or a flame grill, I am going to do them in a pan for you. So I'm sure you can do them in a pan at home as well if you want. We're going to put some butter. I love butter, so let's put more butter. I'm just going to let that melt. Right, and in the meantime, we're going to put out some drunken oysters for the people. Yeah, can we send some? Okay, so, check my friends, they're on the ball, right? Now you know why I travel with my friends. So for those people who don't drink alcohol, we have a set of drunken oysters that are not drunk for you. Okay, so we've kept them civilized, and they won't be unruly. So please just ask which one we are serving you, if you don't mind. So Nicholas there, who's an adopted friend, he adopted us when we came onto the show. He's going to serve us some oysters. Cool. Okay, so we're just going to wait for that to melt. Okay, so we've got the baked oysters that are ready. We've got the oysters, the drunken oysters that are ready, and then I'm going to make one more. So, for the drunken oysters, interesting way to eat oysters. All you need is, papaya, and we wanted to create a dish that was very Durban, right? So we took papaya, you chop it up, red onion, just a hint of the skin of a green chili. You put that all together and you make almost like a paste like what they've got here. You can add a bit of coriander to it as well if you want. So that's basically what it's got to look like, okay? And it actually started off, I was with some friends and we were playing a game. And normally we get a bit rowdy and it's normally about shooters. So this dish actually came out from guys, chilling together, having a few oysters, and we decided how we're going to make this interesting. So we took a bottle of cane, because we're Durban, papaya, the chili, the onion, coriander. We came up with a salsa, and we put them into now it's being done very fancy in those fancy things. We use shot glasses, and we put a little bit of cane into each of the shot glasses, dropped the oyster meat in, topped it with the salsa, and every time someone got a fine, they had to down one of those. It started off like that, but then most recipes, actually start off by accident and become hugely popular. In summer, we average about 8,000 of these in a month. That's how popular it is at the hotel. So you're going to get to try it now. Right, so for this now, we've got that. We're going to add garlic in there. Okay. And again, we just want that to saute so that we can get some flavor. Please make sure we're not saying that we're favoring people. So something must go this way and that way. Okay. Okay, we are now going to put some spring onion in there. Parsley. And then we're going to throw the meat straight in. So we've taken it out the shell because I can't really cook it in the shell. Yeah. What? And we're going to put that in. Give it a quick stir. So this dish, after I got back from America, we had another famous person visit the hotel. I'm sure most of you all know her sister, Khloe Kardashian. So she visited, she was here with French Montana, boyfriend of that moment, the Kardashians work. And she came to the hotel, and we thought, well, since she's from the States, and I had learned this recipe, so we did it for her. And I must say, she actually gave me a whole lecture, again, like the Americans do. They always think you know nothing. So she told me the whole story about where it was the first time she had eaten this and how it's a traditional from the South in Louisiana. This is like a regular thing that they do every day of the week, supposedly. I don't know. Okay, again, this here you don't have to season with salt, but you do need black pepper because I've used salted butter. But if you're using plain butter, then you can add some salt. What? And then that is basically it. Now, like I said, if you're going to do it at home, you're going to do it like that, in the shell, roast it on the braai. But if you're not and you've got some friends and you want to entertain them at home, you can actually cook that, then take the shell, wipe it dry, and then spoon it back from here into the shell and serve it to your guest. So that's me done. But what I have done is I've got a few gifts. So at the Oyster Box, we've got our own Oyster Box red wine. And I brought a few over, and I was going to give it as a little, not a prize, because I'm actually stuck to my time. I've got 3 minutes. Not bad, right? So if I ask a question, and listen, I don't want to be the person who says who it goes to. So let's choose someone neutral, like that man standing there in the back. He looks very like, if you say it wasn't you, he's going to... Okay, so this dish that I created here, you have to look at the crowd and tell me. So we're going to start on this side, right? We're going to start on this side. We'll make it fair. So the dish that I created here, does anyone remember the name? The one with the lentils and the spinach. Right, so who was first? There we go. You want to give that to her, please? Couple more questions. I'm going to go quickly, and then we...
Yeah, cool, man.
See, he's rushing me.
Never.
You're going to walk past my kitchen at some stage, eh? Okay, so for the next one, this side. Anyone who remembers what this dish is called?
Yes, ma'am. Right here with the pink shirt on. Sorry? Oyster Diane.
Correct?
Very good.
Okay.
Right, for anyone with blonde hair.
Anyone with blonde hair who can answer this
What's our
question.
chef's name?
Jesus, how easy was that? That's it. Ask a question.
Okay. Right. There is a very famous person who Kevin has worked for a number of years, who now has nothing to do and sits on a little estate down in Cape Town called Klein Leeukoppen. Without him, the Oyster Box really wouldn't be there. Who am I talking about?
Who is he talking about? Who are you talking about?
The founder of the Oyster Box. Yes, sir. Sorry? Mr. who? Mr. Coleman.
Tallman.
Mr. Tolman. Really?
He owns the Oyster Box now.
He owns it now. Soko's son owns it now.
No,
No one knows?
not Togo-san.
Yeah.
Family run. Red
Family
Carnation.
run.
Yeah.
Anyone remember a guy called Sol Kersner? Hey? It's not him.
It definitely wasn't him, I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
Yeah. Okay, no. Okay, if you go into the Oyster Box, there is a revolving door. Who can tell me how old that door is?
I know the answer to this one.
Yeah.
Actually, the person who answers this can get 2 bottles of wine because
Yeah.
that's how impressive if you know the answer.
The lady at the back of the blue t-shirt on, how old is it? They've just spent 840 odd million renovating the hotel, but that door is the original one. Come on,
Next.
hazard a guess.
In actual fact, the door came from another hotel
Yeah.
before it came to us. One of the oldest hotels in Durban. Sorry? There we go. The Royal Hotel, but how? Give him 1 bottle, that's fine. You got
One
that
bottle
right.
for you.
How old is the door if it came from the Royal Hotel? 90 years. Nope.
1990? 1975?
Yes, ma'am. 150, yes. Well, both of you got it right, so there, we've got 2 bottles.
150
The
years
2
old.
ladies there.
Okay, now for a
Okay.
bit of fun. Who can tell me how many chefs assisted Kevin on stage today? Yes. Just 3? 4.
4.
4 is the correct answer. You win for yourself a dirty dishcloth used by Kevin Joseph.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the little tasters. Thank you so much.
Let's have a big round of applause for Kevin and his friends. Thanks, guys. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this evolution. We now need to clear the theatre, please, as we have the winner from Australian MasterChef coming up next, and his seats are ticket sailed. So if you have tickets, please go and join the queue. We just want to clean the theatre up, redo the gifts on the seats, the exits through the left-hand side, the front of the stage. Thank you.